Story 1. Am I the a-hole for kicking out one of my bridesmaids for showing up in the wrong dress? My 23 female wedding was back on Saturday, December 31st, and I'm still getting backlash from this. So I want to know if this was an a-hole move. In the country I live in, it's currently winter, and we get a fair amount of snow, so my wedding was a winter-themed wedding. The color theme was forest green and gold. My dress was obviously white, and I chose the color of my bridesmaids' dresses to be forest green as well. My maid of honor's dress was black, and everyone was wearing gold accessories. I have this friend, we'll call her Kat, that I asked to be one of my bridesmaids. When we went dress shopping and I told them the color theme I was going for, Kat immediately expressed that she thought forest green was a bad choice. She said she thinks it's not a flattering color and thought I should choose something different and more girly. I said no because my wedding was winter themed and I thought the color would go perfectly with the theme. She suggested pink, blue, even red. I said no, but thanks for your opinion. She found out my maid of honor's dress was black and asked if she could wear black too. I said no, only my maid of honor is wearing black. I paid for all the dresses. Fast forward to wedding day. Everyone's getting their hair and makeup done, and Kat shows up 30 minutes late holding a bag that looked like it had a dress inside. I asked her what this was for. She told me it was for later on at the reception if she got uncomfortable and wanted to change after pictures. I was like, okay, cool. So fast forward, we're all dressed and walking down the stairs because the ceremony is beginning in 30 minutes, and we were going to take some pictures before. Kat is the last person to come down, and she's wearing a black dress. At the time, I was preoccupied taking pictures with my parents, but my maid of honor came over to me and made me aware of the situation. I confronted Kat and asked her what was going on. She said she hates her bridesmaid's dress, as the color is ugly and makes her look gross, so she's wearing black. I told her please go back and change. She refused and started walking away from me. I said I'm going to ask her one more time, and if she doesn't oblige, I'm calling security and kicking her out. She began yelling at me to screw off, so I called security and asked them to please escort her out. She started making a big scene, yelling about how I'm such a witch, that I can't force her to wear anything, and that I'm a horrible, inconsiderate friend. The wedding went on, and it was truly amazing. Ever since the wedding, Kat has been blowing up my phone with texts saying some really nasty things and asking for the money back she spent on the black dress, since it was a waste and she didn't even get to wear it. I had to block her number. Some of my other bridesmaids have been giving me crap, saying that it was a little harsh kicking her out and embarrassing her like that, and that maybe I should give her the money back. Am I the a-hole for kicking her out? No, not the jerk, not the a-hole. It's her wedding. She can pretty much do whatever she wants, and she is being nice about it. She's certainly coming nowhere close to being a bridezilla in this case. She had said way ahead of time what the dresses she would like for her bridesmaids to wear. She had expressed why she thought that. I think gave reasonable examples why. And yet the friend, if you can call her a friend, goes against the request anyway. And they could have talked it out, and I don't know if there were deeper feelings going on, but for a guest to show up blatantly wearing a dress against the bride's request, I think is more selfish than what the bride was doing, which is trying to be reasonable and probably handle the situation well by kicking her out of the wedding, because who knows where it would have gone if she hadn't. Maybe they would have caused even more of a scene. And at the end of the day, it's her wedding. It's supposed to be about her, and she should have things the way that she likes. So I think she's justified in her actions in this case. Story 2. Micromanager forced to step down after mismanaging a new retail service. Relevant background info first. Anyway, several years ago, I was working at one of the big hardware stores in my area. It's a household name and has some upward mobility with decent pay for the area. I never really found a niche there after my first year and a half. I learned quickly, though, so they kind of made me a Swiss Army employee. I could work hardware, plumbing, mix paint, make keys, prepare contracts for installs, and knew all the features and flaws of the appliance models we sold. I was happy to do this because I was building a reputation as someone who could do everything. 2 years in, a new program was implemented that I was uniquely qualified to assist with. They created a new position for me. It was marketed as an all-in-one renovation remodel service for interiors. I was to assist the designer with product selection, product information, contracts, and local marketing for the service. Everyone involved was super excited about it. Note, I was still only making $10 an hour in 2015 for this. The problem was that because this was brand new, no one knew how it should work. The designer basically had to figure it out for herself, while I tried to catch up with all of the store and product knowledge I had accumulated during my unique experience with the company. Issues with the program. It was way too expensive. Product to be used had to come from one of our stores, which was limiting. No one knew about it. It was a rocky start. Coworkers would call me over to talk to customers if they mentioned working on a big project, but that's all we had. No completed jobs to reference or anything provided by the corporate to get us running. We made our own stuff. I put together a video advertising the service and got the nod from management to use a company card to purchase a TV and media player to roll the video on repeat. We built vignettes in the store to showcase our design ability. I'd been picking up a lot from the designer, so it ended up being a partnership in effect. The micromanager. Enter Devin, the assistant manager. He had actually been involved in the project from the beginning, and had been pretty supportive, and brought good energy at first. But I think he got fed up with issues that we couldn't control, sloppy contractors refusing to fix things that they messed up, slow design process as customers worked out what they wanted, and people just backing out after taking a bunch of our time when they saw the price. We were, on average, charging $3,000 more for a small bathroom remodel on labor alone. Consulting and design fees were also worked into the final cost. The product was discounted to basically being tax-free, but as I mentioned, options were limited to products the company sold. It was just too expensive to make many sales on the poorer side of town, where almost everyone knows some kind of contractor or tradesman with connections. It wasn't a good market for this program, but we did manage to start hitting and exceeding our numbers. Number 7 in the region for the brand new program was not bad, and just when we finally started getting some business and a rhythm around 8 months in, Devin decided that it was not working fast enough for him. Obviously, the designer was to blame, since he had no authority over the contractors or setting prices. She didn't know what she was doing, and he was going to make some changes. He honestly didn't do much, besides hover, bring bad energy, and make terrible suggestions. He didn't understand the scope of what we had to do to get a customer out the door and happy. He forced us to cut corners and get the sale as quickly as possible without concern for liability, for basically destroying a room in someone's home to remake it, or what was realistic in terms of timeliness. Customers felt rushed and got nervous. They backed out. We came to a standstill. We would only have 2 or 3 designs in progress at a time, but suddenly, after working our butts off building the program, we had no customers for the first time in 6 months. Obviously, Devin was not subjecting us to his authority hard enough, so he went harder and fired the designer. I lost my patience. Justice. Or injustice, I don't know. I'm a chill dude, but I had been working my butt off for this company, making peanuts on the promise that I was working towards something. I endured working for the incompetent managers that got their positions because they started working there at 18 and made it their life. The toxic alpha male, I will lead, you will follow BS was too much. So I started bullying him back, making fun of him in a teasing way where he couldn't really react without looking bad or losing control. I did that for a while, and he left me alone to run the program in the interim, since I was the only option. The designer and I had become friends though, so I was still mad about how it went down. I wasn't finished yet, but I didn't know what to do. Eventually they got another designer, and Devin had me moved back to what I had been doing before. Passed over for several promotions that I was more than qualified for. The market had been flooded with long-time employees that were being moved around. Bad luck. But I was done with this place. One day we were sent an email link to an anonymous manager review survey. The store computers were set up with an always-on and logged-in user profile, so I wrote down the link and verified with a coworker that they weren't unique. In every department I visited that day, I wrote a review for Devon. All different ratings, some good, some bad, but I made the good ones so that they sounded bad, but as if I didn't know it was bad. I did that maybe 10 times. It wasn't character assassination or anything, just opinion-based stuff, with some vague examples, so no one could figure out it was me. I didn't lie either. I just said what people don't usually say out loud. He would barely look at anyone after that. A couple of weeks later, he resigned his position as assistant manager and took an exterior design position at the other end of the store, as far away from the departments he had been over before. Basically the same thing as what we had done with the interiors, but he was in the designer's shoes. I left a couple months later to work tech support for DHS, but while I was still in training for that, my friends from the store told me he had gotten fired. Maybe he learned something. He should at least have learned how my designer friend felt. They were both fired at Christmas. All right, now for this guy, he might be a little bit of an a-hole. It's one thing to hate your boss. I think most people, at least in retail, generally do. But he took it a next step. He took it a step maybe too far by imposing his opinions of the boss on other people in other departments. Sure, maybe they shared the same experiences or the same feelings about the boss as he did, but he is assuming that and kind of going against protocol. I'm sure company rules about submitting surveys, so not that I'm a stickler for rules, corporate rules and all that, but the fact that he's imposing his opinion about this one person on others for the specific purpose of trying to get this guy fired, I think is pretty cruel, and I think his singular anonymous survey submission probably would have done just as well of a job of conveying how crappy this manager was. So he could have just left it at that. I think what he did was unnecessary. Story 3. Entitled mom thinks her family's rules apply to everyone. Last week, I was traveling for work. It had been a long 2 days of meetings, and I was exhausted. I had just arrived at the airport for my evening cross-country flight home when I got the dreaded text from the airline saying my flight was delayed 2 hours due to mechanical problems. I decided to pass the time by getting something to eat. I found an airport restaurant and sat down to order. I ordered my food and pulled my phone out of my bag to catch up on email and browse the web while waiting for my food to arrive. While I was waiting, a family with a mom, dad, a little girl about 5 years old, and a middle school-aged looking boy sat at a table near me. I didn't pay them much attention as I was looking at the email on my phone, but then I heard the little girl exclaim in a rather loud voice, "Look, Mom, that lady's on her phone at the table." I'd then hear the mother reply, "Yes, she shouldn't be doing that. It is rude to have a phone at the table." I glance over and the mother says to me, "We have a rule that no phones are allowed at the table." My first reaction was to say something snarky, as exhaustion was definitely getting the better of me, but then I thought better of it and decided to be polite. I looked at the little girl and said, "We have the same rule in my family, but since I'm here alone, I'm not being rude to anyone by looking at my phone now." At this point, the son looks like he wants to crawl under the table from embarrassment, and the dad is trying to hand the mom a menu and says, "It's okay, let's just order." I think that will be the end of it, but no. The mom says, "Obviously you have a family, so you know how important it is to follow rules. I would appreciate it if you would put away your phone," in a tone that a parent would use on a petulant teen. The little girl chimes in and says, "Yeah, you have to put your phone away. My brother can't have his phone at the table, so you can't either." I look at the little girl and say in as sweet a tone as I can muster, "Well, the great thing about being a grown-up is that I can do whatever I want, so now I'm going to keep looking at my phone," and turn back to my email. The mother sighs loudly. The teen looks even more embarrassed, and the dad again tries to get the mom to just order and leave me alone. The mom calls the waiter over and asks to be reseated. He grudgingly moves them to a different table. My food arrives, and I eat in peace, enjoying browsing Reddit. Now, for this final story, I'm going to go back to saying that this guy was not the a-hole. I think that he's totally justified in eating his meal and doing as he pleases. He's got no one to answer to. For someone else at a different table to impose their home rules on some stranger out at a restaurant is just ridiculous. That person was being a jerk. At the end of the day, mind your own business when you're in public. I think that plays out very well in this scenario. But yeah, she was definitely being a Karen by trying to inflict her rules for her kids on this grown man. You got to parent your own kids and keep them contained in whatever way. Well, not whatever way. I mean, definitely, there's laws and there's ethics about treating them certain ways, but she's trying to make it easier on herself by imposing her rules on this stranger, when in reality, she could have just done a better job at parenting her own kid by explaining how there's different scenarios for when your rules at home can apply and that not everybody has to abide by those rules. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.